Good day, nerds, and welcome to episode 22 of the Nerd Cantina Show. I'm your host, Ken, joined with Steve, and today we're going to go over the weekly nerd news. First, we're going to discuss the Spider-Man Far From Home spoiler-free review. It needs to be spoiler-free. I haven't seen the movie yet. We're going to discuss some Disney remake news surrounding the casting of Ariel that has set the internet on fire. Talk about Marvel's Phase 4, what it may be now that they've announced that they're going to have a panel in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, as well as Steve's going to go over his journey at the Anime Midwest convention this last week. It's going to be a busy show. We're going to get right to it.
Calling back all nerds.
Nerds!
Okay, nerds, welcome back. I am glad to be back to regular civilization here as I've finished up my vacation. A little bit of about 2,000 miles in the RV, put down 3 emergency room visits, and we don't know how to vacation right. There's absolutely no chill in our vacations. I need to rest from my vacation. I'm glad to be back at work and back to real life here. I think almost 2 weeks is plenty of time for me to vacay.
Yeah, I was a bum. We went to the family 4th of July party over at our cousins, and after that, I didn't mow the lawn. I think I did 1 load of laundry. Yeah, it was a pretty relaxing weekend. We even canceled out on going to a Saturday barbecue. Like, it was just Nope. Gonna hang out at the house and enjoy some nice weather and just relax. I don't get to get consecutive days off that much, so it was nice to kind of just hang out at the house and get a few things done.
Yeah, I mean, I loved our trip. We had a great time up at Arches National Park and Canyonlands National Park and a couple other hiking spots in Utah and Nevada and a little bit of Arizona. But man, I'm tired.
I don't think I went to that many rooms in my house. You went to states. Like, yeah. Did you mark yourself safe from the earthquake? Like, how'd that go for you guys?
I'm bummed out at the fact that the first earthquake, the 6 point whatever earthquake, happened when we were in Vegas driving back. Didn't feel it. And then the 7.1, I had neighbors that said they felt it. We're watching their lights shake and everything else. We didn't notice anything.
We were like magnitude earthquake.
No, like, I mean, it was still pretty far from where I'm at in North San Diego County, but yeah, I didn't feel it all. Some neighbors did, so it definitely affected our area, but it wasn't like we weren't at the epicenter. But I'm still bummed out that I didn't in any way feel it. I did realize that nobody loves me. Like everybody was blowing Natalie's phone up about, hey, oh my goodness, you guys are good with the earthquake, whatever else. All my neighbors are literally just on the phone talking to everybody. I didn't get a phone call. Not a single text message was like, hey, big earthquake, how you doing? And like, so nobody cares. I've come to realize that.
I mean, I think maybe we just all assumed that you'd head for an archway in your home and you'd be all right. I sent you a message, asshole. Hey, how was the earthquake? Like, hey, how was that earthquake?
You don't count.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that you don't have collectibles or anything on shelves in your house. Like, you're a very frugal person. So, the plastic silver sporks that you stole from KFC, I think are going to be just fine.
Yeah, if I had the comic book shelf or whatever else, I'm sure you would have cared. Making sure my comics didn't fall on the floor.
My really expensive Marvel chess set, yeah, like I'd have been guarding that thing with my life. Like, you'd have seen me crying amongst a sea of dead figurines. Well, let's get into the weekly nerd news.
So we know you saw Spider-Man Far From Home. I mean, this was over. By the time this comes out, you saw it over a week ago. But it's the first time you had a chance to talk about it on the podcast. So for anybody who hasn't gone and seen it yet, give them I'll
give them a quick spoiler because we did do a pretty spoiler heavy Fight Me Friday on Friday with Ron. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't know anything about it yet and haven't listened to the Fight Me Friday, I definitely, if you're the type of person that goes and sees all the Marvel movies, or if you're a big Spider-Man fan, definitely go see it. It was definitely, they did a really good job of tying everything in with the weight that Infinity War and Endgame had to the movies. You know, they were very heavy movies, very, you know, just like deep plots and stuff like that. It took it back to a more lighter side of the Marvel universe and pointed it in a direction that I was really happy with. The way they played with the characters, you know, not every character is going to be true to the comics. You know, they did their best. The changes they made in the movie, I can totally get down with. It wasn't like such a bastardized version that you get upset. You know, I know some people are really sticklers for that stuff, but you got to have some kind of understanding with the movie studios. But if for them to, I've seen a lot of notes saying that this is the movie that officially ends Endgame, in that phase of Marvel, to where I thought this was like the start of the next phase. Like Endgame was the end of that phase, and the Spider-Man movie is the start of the next phase.
I think it's only the end in the sense that this one was on the original mapping of what Phase 3 was for Kevin Feige and stuff, that this was the wrap up. This was everything beyond this point is a part of everything new. So this was the transition.
Yeah, so I think they did a really good job of being able to pivot in a newer direction. They wrap up a couple loose ends from Endgame really well, and then they just start on a new trajectory, and really it's actually kind of exciting. The Easter eggs at the end, 2 end credit scenes, worth sitting in your seat, you know, for the extra time for, definitely. I'm now excited for the next phase of Marvel. You know, I didn't know where they were going to go from here. I really thought that Far From Home was going to be a movie they could really jump the shark with and take the superhero genre down with them, and here, you know, it be the beginning of the end of this, you know, trend in movies. But I really think that no, they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Not with the performance of this movie, at least.
Yeah, I want to try to get out and go see it now that I'm back home. See if I can go sneak away from work or something. It's from what I've seen, it's pretty good. I did not listen to your Fight Me Friday with Ron. Somehow I edited it without getting a single spoiler out of it.
Our audio engineer did not listen to the episode that
nope.
he
nope. So go ahead and send me an email with a timestamp of something that was terribly off, and then maybe I'll go in there and fix it. But I did just enough to make sure that the audio was cleaned up and in sync, and hit publish because I wasn't listening. So.
Well, sticking with movie news, we definitely have a big deal from the internet, and a very touchy subject for many in the casting of the live action Little Mermaid movie. So let's walk on these eggshells and talk about this topic, huh?
I mean, I find it absolutely hilarious. It was a conversation that I had in my neighborhood yesterday. Like, everybody is talking about Ariel being cast as a black woman, and this is something to me I didn't care about. I got even an argument with my wife about it. Just saying, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, Disney back in the 80s whitewashed everything. Everybody was white. But I mean, this was a Caribbean like setting with mermaids. I mean, she probably should have been black in the first place. Like,
yeah, I really think it's one of those generational things. So Ariel was the Disney princess of our generation. You know what I mean? And now our generation are in their early 30s to early 40s with a bunch of kids, and people are fucking with their childhood. You know, they feel like they're fucking with their memories and their childhood, and they're just caught up all in their feels. Like I told Rami, our ginger friend, I said, your people are the only people that have a right to be upset about this. I was like, because she's like the ginger queen. I was like, so if white people want to protest this, they all better be very pale with freckles and no soul, because you're the only people that have a right to kind of be pissed off about this.
I mean, do they give her red hair?
Yeah,
I feel like you have to. I feel like you still have to give her red hair. I mean,
just to really get the people riled up.
Well, so this is where I find it a weird decision for Disney. Not in the fact that, like, again, she's Caribbean. Let's be real. Sebastian the crab was always like you know what I mean?
For sure.
Everybody. It's just the people, the princess, of course, they made white. It makes sense, but Disney normally doesn't want to fuck with their merchandising. Think of all of the bed sheets and toys and posters that you're kind of making like kids look at and be like, that's not Ariel anymore.
Yeah,
that's not it.
Disney couldn't have asked for better free publicity. They really couldn't have. Like it, but the thing is like they're getting all this free publicity, but in the back end, there's going to be a small portion of people that boycott the movie now. Like they're just gonna, they're already talking about it. And the memes that are coming out of this are just straight fire. They're just straight fire.
All the other like fake castings that people are just making up in memes now. It is
Black
great.
ones and white ones. Like I've seen both versions. Like I've seen somebody post a Love and Basketball with like just the whitest couple you've ever seen photoshopped into the Love and Basketball poster. I just so part of me, like, let's not say I'm sympathetic to the people that are upset about the recasting, but I do kind of understand it. It's the same thing that comic book people get all up in arms about, is when you have such a concrete vision of who a character is. Like it'd be like having another animated Batman and not having Conroy voice Batman and just having some random voice him. Like, you have certain things kind of just solidified in your mind as this is this and that is that. And humans don't react with change very well. You know what I mean?
I just find it funny watching this conversation take place, because it's really, like you said at the beginning, it's eggshells. There's so many people that want to be angry about
but
it.
They can't.
But at the same time, they're like, well, it's not because she's black. I gotta temper my outrage here. It's not, fuck, I'm not racist. I just want a redheaded white girl to play it. I don't know.
It's so funny because, like, in all honesty, it is kind of funny to see white people get a little bit of taste of what has been happening to like every other culture for millennia. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've whitewashed almost every Asian role in movies for like eternity. You know what I mean? And now they get a little bit of their own medicine, and it's just straight like people with Starbucks cups flipping out, man.
Yeah, I didn't care, especially if you're going to change a character. Ariel's one of them. I mean, it's a mermaid. You could do whatever the fuck you want with a mermaid that is, again, in the Caribbean. It kind of makes sense. You're not going to go, the trailer came out for Mulan.
Yeah.
They couldn't. You're not going to change the race of Mulan, right? Yeah. That would fuck the story up. You can't do
Aladdin
that.
Just came out. You just took the kids to go see Aladdin. You really can't change Jasmine and Aladdin. Like, these are actual movies set in a solidified reality-driven
Real.
culture. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about The Little Mermaid. And if anybody has ever read the story, I don't know if they go into, like, description of the actual, like, I remember reading the book back in the day of The Little Mermaid, you know, and I don't know if there's an actual description of what the character looks like in the book story. They changed the ending of The Little Mermaid. You know, no one was mad that they, you know, in the book version of Little Mermaid, she dies. She fucking dies and turns into sea foam. So next time you're at the ocean, you see a bunch of sea foam. That's dead fucking mermaids. Like according to the literature, all that sea foam is mermaid carcass. So have fun wading through that shit. Like, you know, it's just funny where people pick their outrage and you know, I don't condone it. I'm not really sympathetic to these people because what I'm almost sure is that she auditioned and she killed it. You know, people from what you read about,
and she can sing, and it's I again, I don't care. I really hope they go like nuts with the casting of Prince Eric. I'm really hoping they go completely weird with that too. Let's like Prince Eric is no longer like he's a prince, but let's make him, I don't know, like Captain Phillips, like pirate ships out there. I don't know.
I am waiting
different.
for like the ginger petition or the ginger protest. Just a bunch of, you know, really white, pale, freckled people just protesting in the streets and give us our queen back. You know, like so that's what I told Rami. I was like, look, I feel for the gingers because there aren't that many prevalent ginger like characters out in the world at all, you know, and like she was the ginger queen. Like they're like every girl with red hair. Ariel,
she still might have red hair.
That's your girl. Well, not natural. So,
I mean, her fins aren't quite natural either.
I understand, you know, but let's you know, is that cultural appropriation? You know, a black mermaid dyeing her hair red is that cultural appropriation? Oh, jeez. But yeah, we mentioned the Mulan trailer dropped. That looks like it's going to be, because it's not like a fantasy story that you need a lot of like CGI and stuff, you know, so it looks like it's going to be, you know, kind of more along.
That short little trailer looks like they might go a little like Crouching Tiger in some spots.
Yeah, you know, I mean, they might pull some Asian filmmaking techniques out of it and stuff like that. But for the most part, it does look like they're not going to have to, you know, there's no talking animals in it, unless they have the little dragon dude.
I was going to say, I was just going to say, I don't know, are they going to do the dragon?
You know, so it looks like they're going more of a realistic tale of Mulan, which looks like it could be interesting. They got some good actors in it, and the trailer doesn't give away too much, you know. No, yeah, you just got to see how they play up her journey as a man, and and see if it's done. Again, where I was just talking to other people about it, but hopefully they stick true to the actual cartoon to some degree, which was a good story, and they don't go too I don't know, SJW on it. And go over the top for the modern audience. I don't need to be taught a lesson at every movie. I don't need you to up my woke level anytime I walk into a theater. Sometimes I just want to sit and enjoy a movie. Yeah. So hopefully they don't go too nuts with that, but coming out of the Aladdin movie, I ran into a headline somewhere on my searches in the interwebs about how the original screenwriters for Aladdin didn't receive any monetary compensation for the remake, and it goes back to the fact that those who wrote the contracts back in those days, remakes weren't a thing. You know what I mean? You go back to
to these original cartoons and Cinderellas and Aladdin, Little Mermaid, all of these, it wasn't built into their contracts that they would get royalties for remakes, because live action remakes of animated movies wasn't a thing. So now these live action remakes are being made, and I mean they are the animated screen. Like,
yeah, this is
they're
really
using the lines
to navigate.
Yeah, they are using the exact lines, the songs. They're using the original source material, and in no way compensating those original writers.
I think a courtroom is going to have to be the one to kind of hash this out, because you do have laws that protect like songwriters from this kind of shit, right? You know, like you can't just cover a person's song and put it out and not have to pay the songwriter royalties. If I'm correct.
Yeah, but so it goes into, but this is a different genre altogether when you talk about screenwriting, because it's the same. But it's the same reason why the Writers Guilds went on strike. What was it? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because syndication, they weren't getting royalties in syndication either. When TV shows, they were only getting their initial pay. Yeah. And then when Seinfeld's picked up for the next 100 years,
Seinfeld's great grandchildren are living off that Seinfeld money, and the writers don't get shit.
Yeah, and that's still, so you're talking about writer contracts that existed before TV syndication stuff that we're talking about now. Yeah, they got no compensation. I don't know if they win, because the previous writers didn't win in TV syndication.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is kind of shady, like, because that's the thing is like I would have to do some in-depth research, but were there any screenwriters credited in the Aladdin movie? You know what I mean? Who did they credit with the new as the new screenwriters? Did they say they varied the lines up enough to where it was a new movie, like? Air quotes.
I don't think they need to vary it up. They don't need to vary it up at all. I mean, they can, because there's a new structure to it in the way they adapted it to live action. So if you're stealing lines from the original movie, I don't think it makes a difference.
There's a lot of
those are copyrighted lines.
Legalities that go into this movie stuff. So when I was on the set of Divergent, for those that don't know, I'm in a minor scene in Divergent, that A+ of a movie, because I'm standing there typing on a computer. But when I was on Divergent, I learned that there's an issue with tattoos. So they had to cover up a lot of my tattoos because they didn't want any of them in the movie, because the dude that did Mike Tyson's tattoo, his eye tattoo, sued The Hangover and got millions of dollars because he didn't authorize the Hangover movie the rights to use that tattoo design, because technically he hand drew it on Mike Tyson's face, tattooed it on, and he claimed he owns the rights to that property, and if they wanted to use that property, they had to pay him. So the movie Hangover ended up having to pay a big lump sum to this tattoo artist because they replicated Mike Tyson's tattoo on dude's face. So they were all like, that was a big thing. They were all afraid of, having any of my tattoos come up on screen, which always puzzled me, because it's tattooed on me. I figured I owned the rights to my tattoos. Like,
you're just the canvas. You're just the canvas for somebody else's art.
So like that really kind of opened up my eyes to the intricacies of legalities that go into making these movies and things like that. And yeah, I don't know. I think they deserve money. Let's put it like that. I think they deserve some compensation, but I don't know if they're going to get any.
I enjoyed the Aladdin movie. Actually, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
How did you like it?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
We didn't review it on the Cantina. It came out the same week as something else, I think.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I liked it more than expected. Will Smith isn't Robin Williams, but he wasn't trying to be him. It had its own feel to it, but it was well done. It was
the
really
thing that most people told me is that it was it was good, and Will Smith was great in it, unless he was trying to imitate Robin Williams. Like, so the itty bitty living space lines and some of the other lines just didn't work as well, because those are iconic Robin Williams lines.
There were moments where he kind of fell flat if you were looking for a Robin Williams genie, but I wasn't. It's Will Smith. Like, he's got a different way of doing things, and I thought it all played out well. So the movie was actually really well done. No real complaints on it. To move on from this movie news, and we got some more to cover before we get out of here today. But what was released yesterday was that Marvel is going to do a Hall H discussion or panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, we had talked what it was, a couple weeks ago, about Hall H being kind of deserted at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, and this is pretty late in the game to finally reserve the space, but it was open because nobody was doing it.
Calls and was like, "Look, you assholes, we propped you on our back for years." Years, don't you dare walk out on us now.
But everybody's speculating because Hall H has been used by Marvel to announce, when they announced kind of the Phase 3, what their plans were. We know Kevin Feige's got the next 5 years lined up. He knows all the movies and what the general themes are for all of those movies going forward. So is Hall H going to be used as a Phase 4 kind of discussion and lay out the whole movie slate? It seems like
it only makes sense. I mean, we don't have another Marvel movie coming out this year, do we? Like, I can't think. For Disney, it's the Star Wars Episode 9 is coming out, around Christmas.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a Marvel movie releasing in 2019.
Yeah, I can't think of one either. Maybe Google can save us here in a minute, but I can't think of any more in 2019. So I think you're right.
Yeah. So what else could they possibly be? What would they need Hall H for other than to just lay out the the blueprint of the future for Marvel? It only makes sense.
Yeah, and again, I didn't see Far From Home, and I don't know if Far From Home tips the
they at the
kind of what we should expect for Phase 4.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, especially the end credit scenes, like that's kind of why you have to stay at the end. They definitely are. That's one thing I did like about Spider-Man is that it's, everyone's talking about the past Marvel movies. Even now, it's how is this going to tie into Endgame? Everything Endgame. By the end of Spider-Man, you're really not looking back anymore. You're looking more towards the future of Marvel, and that's kind of what I enjoyed about the movie is that phase is done. You know what I mean? It's done. It is what it is. Like it, love it, take it. We're moving on. This is the new reality that we live in. This is who's in it. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to Nerdstradamus or if you've got any big thoughts. Do you think that it's going to be kind of one unified Phase 4 that's going to have one major villain, major arc that they're going to look towards, or is it really going to go back to more independent movies, loose tie-ins?
I think at the beginning it's going to be independent movies, loose tie-ins. I think they're going to take this time to announce some X-Men or Fantastic Four news that they're going to start casting. Or I think by the end of Phase 4, you're going to have mutants in the MCU. You might have a new incarnation of Fantastic Four. Honestly, I think this next phase is going to have a lot to do with the Skrulls. They brought them in to Captain Marvel. There's a lot of historical Skrull stories that you can tell. But
the Skrulls in Captain Marvel were sarcastic, nice guys.
And that's kind of
I hate it.
I'm hoping that they bring it back. So I really think they were doing that to pull the rug out from under people that don't read comics, that don't know what the history of the Skrulls are. Because anybody that has ever read a Skrull story in comics knows that, like, these are the bad guys. They're horrible, horrible aliens.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that they're setting up these, you know, we're refugees, feel sorry for us. We're in it. The Skrulls right now are way too campy for me. Like it's like a joke of a joke that they're doing with them.
They were really garbage characters. I did not like the way they were portrayed in Captain Marvel.
When you get them to do some ruthless shit, it's going to be, you know, like it's going to have more weight to it. So I think they're just trying to do that setup right now. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Because a great way to bring Fantastic Four in would be to do the Super Skrull. You know, the Super Skrull has all 4 powers of the Fantastic Four. You know, that's
really?
his thing. He can go invisible. He can turn his hand. You know, he can turn into stone. He can light himself on fire, and he can stretch. So the Super Skrull is one of the most iconic villains of the Fantastic Four. So what better way, now that we have a good introduction to the Skrulls, than to bring in the Fantastic Four, bring in the Super Skrull at the end, you know, carry that on maybe to another movie. And also there's one of my favorite Marvel arcs is Secret Invasion, where it's, you know, they do a long comic book arc that spans multiple titles, all about how the Skrulls have actually been here for 50 years, living among us, and characters that you thought were dead were actually Skrull versions of that character. So there was a way for them to bring dead characters back in the Marvel universe. It was a way to explain some shifty behavior.
Yeah, and I thought they killed that with the way they brought Skrulls in on Captain Marvel. Was the Secret Invasion thing is kind of a dead thing. They can't go that way now with it.
Well, there's still very limited people that know Skrulls exist. So it's basically like Captain Marvel and Nick Fury.
Yeah, that's true. And that was set back in the 90s, so I guess they could have been camping out for 25 years at this point in time.
You know, yeah. I still look at 1990 like it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. It literally just hurt my soul when I just said 25 years.
Like it really does. It's a swift kick to the junk anytime I hear someone talk about the 90s, like in the uber past tense, because like it does really feel like it wasn't that long ago to me, and I'm an old ass goddamn man. So yeah, you can say they've been here for a quarter of a century by being here in the 90s, which really pains my soul.
Yeah, I think we will get a release, or I think we will get an announcement for Fantastic Four. They got to bring them in. I don't know whether it's going to be tied to like the snap.
Some of the other things that they've hinted at is doing. So Annihilation was a big comic crossover too, but it has to deal with a lot of outer space. So the next Guardians movie might set up Annihilus, and you might have like Annihilus be the next Thanos and have this big, you know. But I don't know if they're gonna want to do another space story coming to Earth. Like all the threats come to space, and you know, there's a lot you could do. You could, especially with bringing mutants and the Fantastic Four in, if they could do it. You know, with Fantastic Four, you got Galactus. That's a every character kind of issue thing that affects the entire planet. You know, so if you're gonna do a big like Endgame scenario, you need a villain that's gonna entice everybody on the planet to fight this thing.
Yeah, and not just the planet, right? You know, you're talking about otherwise. If it's not just on Earth, Captain Marvel's got better things to do.
Well, and they're talking about bringing the Nova Corps in, so there might be there's going to be a Nova movie coming soon, which I don't know how they're going to do that, because they flat out said in Infinity War that Xandar was destroyed. So did Tony Stark fix Xandar when he snapped? You don't know, like. There's a lot of ways they can pivot. Spider-Man did kind of set a few things up to kind of give you some hints of where they might go. But very vague, and they could still take it in any direction. The one end credit scene at the end of the long, like, when is this going to end credit scene, that has more to do with the overall MCU. The end credit scene that happens after that, like, first 5 minutes where they're just doing the main actors and director, and then they cut to an end scene. That one is more specific to Spider-Man, so that sets up the next Spider-Man movie most likely.
Well, either way, hopefully we'll hear some news from Marvel in the next couple of weeks. Get at least hopefully we get like a 3-year out calendar that's pretty solidified, that says what they're coming out with, and hopefully on there we have the tie-ins to X-Men and Fantastic Four, because that's really what everybody, I think, wants to see out of Phase 4. Villains, whatever else. I'm sure they'll have some interesting way to bring them all together, but we want our mutants. We want Fantastic Four. We want Doctor Doom.
I want fucking Wolverine in a brown costume or a blue and yellow costume. Just give me, put a fucking hood on this dude for once. Jesus Christ. Like, give me a fucking hood. I want to see Colossus throw him at somebody at some point. Like, can I get some of the iconic goddamn X-Men things? Like, what the fuck?
No.
No.
Hugh Jackman's a beautiful man. You don't cover up his face.
This is true.
No, we just need a low budget, grimy Wolverine that we don't care about putting a mask on.
Now, next big thing that I'll be mad about is if they don't bring Sinister into the third Deadpool movie. They've been setting up Sinister in the first 2 Deadpool movies, and if I don't get a movie version of this big ass dope caped vampire looking motherfucker, I am be so pissed. I will be so fucking pissed. Like, write a letter pissed.
Yeah, well, I think that takes us out of really where we wanted to go with San Diego Comic-Con. We'll get more news from there here in the coming weeks. But then you recently left a convention, which I think was your first time ever at an anime convention at Anime Midwest.
Yeah, it was my first anime convention. I have friends that go to these things every year. It was the same weekend as ASIN out in LA, so it, like, the world's biggest, like, outside of Japan anime convention was in LA the same weekend. So I don't know how that affected their bookings and who locally stays at this Midwest con. But from stats I read at the con and their pamphlets and stuff, I want to say they started this Midwest anime probably like 6-7 years ago, and it's growing every year. They started off with like only 6,000 attendees in the first anime convention, and fast forward like I said, 6 to 8 years later, and now they're pulling in like 15,000, 16,000. You know, I don't know what the official one was this year, but I think last year they had like almost 15,000 people come to that anime convention. So the only convention I really have to compare it to are like SDCC, C2E2. It was a fraction of the size of C2E2. Like, we're talking, man, like the front corner of C2E2. You know, they had an artist alley, only about 4 rows deep. Handful of vendors. I went Friday, and cool thing about having the podcast in the blog. We got press passes when I walked in, because Friday I walked in at about 11. The con actually didn't open till 1, because I'm a lazy shit and I don't check what times these things open. I just assumed that it would start at 10, and I got there at 11, and I would have been really mad if I had to sit outside with the nerd herd, you know, waiting to get in. But there was about 5,000 to 6,000 people standing in like the long queue to register for your badges. 3 football fields long, 5 lanes, interweaving out in the outside hallway. Just so many goddamn people. And I kind of like look, and I see the, you know, it's like register here, register here, register here, and all the way to the right, it's like press registration, and there's like one person in that line. I'm like, do I get to Do I get to walk past?
Oh, and you got to feel nerd special,
yeah.
and just puff your chest up and just walk past everybody.
Bunch of people, bunch of furries, big dudes with dollies, like all kinds of people looking at me like, where's this dude think he's going? Because I'm a large, older, tattooed man. Nobody was gonna say shit to me. Like I could have walked right in front of the actual line, and not a goddamn person would have said anything to me.
And no, let's be serious. Nobody looked at you and thought like they were jealous of what you're doing. They just thought you were the help. they just thought,
I had an anime shirt on. I had my one anime shirt that I own on.
This big dummy's going back there to set up some chairs.
So I bypassed at least like 5,000, 6,000 people, walked into a single person line, waited for that one person to get their badge, got my press badge, and then I walked up to the gate. And I was like, hey, do I get to go in? Thinking it's a long shot. And the lady was like, oh, yeah, press gets to go in. And I literally walked in and had the entire con to myself for an hour and a half. So it's like everybody's putting their finishing touches on their booth, opening up their last boxes, artists kind of like setting up some posters. And I'm literally just walking this fucking booth. It was like, a kid in a candy store. I could walk up to people, talk to them, not have to yell, not have to move out of people's way like crazy. I did probably like 10 laps before anybody came in, trying to find some cool things to talk about. Went over to the food court, ate a super pretzel and a water by myself at a table. Not anybody. Just like, dude, it was like to be in a con and have like a peaceful experience like that was really just kind of like weird. It was just so weird, like, am I at the right place? Like, do I belong here? I did feel though Friday like I was out of my element, so like I didn't really see anything too crazy, too cool, like nothing. I have a few of my favorite animes. I'm a big Bleach fan, I'm a My Hero Academia fan. I remember the old ones, so like Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, basically the anime starters pack. I'm fluent in, like Full Metal Alchemist. Once you get into some of the new stuff or the weird stuff, like that's kind of where you lose me. And they really didn't have anything that like stuck out to me. I was really kind of looking for something cool Bleach to put on my shelf because I really don't have anything anime in my basement, and I was like, I need to kind of step it up. So I was looking for a Kenpachi figure or something. Nothing, man. So I basically talked to a few artists to see if they'd be interested in illustrating our future comic. Talk to a few vendors, personal vendors, to maybe see if they wanted to come on the podcast or put an ad on the podcast. But for the most part, all the vendors were like generic stores, so it's not like people. I wanted to find somebody like making the stuff they were selling, or had like a stake in the stuff they were selling, not just somebody that buys, things in bulk and then gets a table at these cons and is just there to try to make money. You know what I mean? I wanted to find somebody that had some passion behind their vendors, and I didn't see any of that really. It was really kind of underwhelming, I guess. If you aren't a fan of like the major ones, so a lot of Dragon Ball Z stuff, a lot of My Hero Academia stuff. But I took our friend Rami on Sunday, gave him one of our extra press passes because he's really into anime. He likes a lot more than I do. And even he couldn't find some of the stuff that he was looking for. So he was just looking for something cool, Naruto. And Naruto is one of the biggest animes there is. And there was really very minimal, if anything, that, he could even choose from. So that was kind of like, I didn't know if it was, if you were that anime fan that likes the obscure animes, that you would have had a better time. Because I went to a panel with Steve Bloom and his fiance, Mary. I can't remember her last name. It's in my notes upstairs. But they she was like the director of Naruto. She's done thousands of voice acting on video games and anime. Steve Bloom is one of the most famous voice actors in anime. He was in the Bumblebee movie. He was Spike on Cowboy Bebop. He was Orochimaru in Naruto. So he was a big name. So I went and sat at their panel to see if I couldn't get their contact information to do an interview, a Cantina conversation with them. And the questions people were asking them, like, never heard of these anime, never heard of these animes, never heard of these characters, never, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was
yeah, it's just out of your
I
league.
was just like, wow, like where do you people find these things? Like, how, like, are they just such anime fans? It's like kind of like the horror genre where people just watch anything horror. I think if you're an anime fan, you just watch anything anime, you know. And it was like interesting in that point. Not to mention, like, people come out of the cracks of nerddom to come to this thing. Like, in that panel, because it was a Q&A panel, so all the audience got to ask all the questions, and it was just some very socially awkward, like almost like feel bad that they can't voice, like, in their head they got this whole thing going, you know what I mean? Like, in their head it works out, but the minute they stood up to actually, like, ask a question, it was like they didn't know how to speak English anymore. And in like, one dude was so nervous and so just, like, shook from being in front of these people and being surrounded by other anime friends that it took 3 people to translate the question that this dude was trying to ask them. Like, everybody had been like, I don't understand what you mean. And it was the thing. And guy, you remember that the guy, you know, and I was just like, wow, like, man, like, the, you know, C2E2 is very general. You know, you get the very general population that comes out to these things. This was like straight fandom. You know, it was really, it was an interesting experience. I don't know if I'll go again, just for the simple fact that, like I said, there wasn't anything that drew my attention. But I honestly think it was more about the community. I seen just groups of people standing in the middle of the hallways talking about their cosplays. People that talk to each other through forums and stuff met up at these conventions. I don't think it was a lot about buying things or vendors or artists. I really think it was just about 14,000 anime fans being in a room together, hanging out, and all the other extra shit is like bonus for them.
But I would imagine that's the draw of many, like the smaller.
No, see, like C2E2,
like,
it's about getting your comics signed.
But that's
about getting
that's not
autographs.
a smaller convention, though.
Yeah, no, you're talking 100,000 people.
Yeah, the smaller industry conventions and stuff. It's a lot about networking. It's a lot about just the community feel. So you being a little bit of an outsider of that community, I could see that being a challenge. I'd be completely lost there. I've got very little knowledge in anime, so I couldn't even walk into that room.
I did get a couple compliments on my Bleach shirt, though. I had a pretty dope Bleach shirt, and you know, like I blended as much as a 6'3" tattooed man, you know, 40-year-old tattooed man can blend at an anime convention. The cultural aspect of it was really interesting. So anime is very inclusive, like a lot of LGBTQ stuff, like furries just walking in full furry costume, enjoying life, like it, you know, and nobody blinks at it there. It is very, you know, like gender swapping cosplay is very popular, you know, but it's mostly the women doing female versions of men costumes. There was dudes just straight up cross-dressing there, you know what I mean, in their anime stuff, and like everybody loves it. It was what I thought was probably the coolest, is that in that room you could be who you wanted to be, and nobody was going to judge you or say anything about it.
You're saying at C2E2 you don't see too many dudes as Black Widow?
I mean, you get a
handful
of them, but it's mostly like the people that that are doing it for the attention of it. Like these were actually like people.
Like they're doing it ironically to be funny, but
you know what I mean. These were like these were like true fans, and this is what their life was. You know, to see that kind of like inclusion in society was really cool. Another cultural thing that kind of threw me off though was a lot of vendors sold body pillows with like the anime dudes on them. So like I just like got this really creepy like weird, you know, like
you're
a whole bunch of tweens,
thinking of everybody dry humping a bunch of
humping anime pillows at home, like bro, like just the thought process. I was like, oh, is that a flag? I was like, no, it's a pillow. Why is there an anime dude on? Like, oh no. You know, like, you know, so you just picture that like American Pie moment of some like 14-year-old anime dork girl getting caught by her parents humping a Orichi Michu fucking pillow, you know, and then there was more dude ones than girls, which surprised me. So this must be like a female thing, but there were a few female body pillows, and then instantly you know what that's about, and that's not as innocent as of a thought as the other ones. But like that was really like it threw me off. It really did throw me off because I was like, body pillow, huh? You know, and then my stupid ass at first was like, I wonder,
wrapped in plastic, huh?
I wonder what that's for. I wonder what that be about. And I was like,
why are they advertising it as waterproof? I don't understand.
They did have a huge video game section of like actual Japanese video games. So the Japanese arcade culture is very different than American game culture. So Japanese is all like Dance Dance Revolution, button pushing games like Whack-A-Mole type games. They really like their human interaction when it comes to video games. They don't just play like Mortal Kombat joystick and some buttons and stuff. So to be able to walk around and test out some of those games was a little fun. Get my fat ass sweating, you know. Overall, though, it was an interesting time. I did regret not being able to get like anything to write a good article on. We'll see. We're gonna reach out to a few people from the con to see if we can't get some Cantina conversations from them.
Maybe we can get somebody who's smart on anime to enlighten us on some of those things that you saw you didn't know about.
I'm definitely gonna reach out to a few of our anime people on Twitter, and we'll do an anime Cantina conversation in some form. But I'd like to Steve Bloom and his fiance Mary were they're definitely high up there, and I talked to Mary. I asked her, you know, if they'd be interested in coming on the podcast. They gave us their publicist contact information, so we're gonna have to run it through the proper channels, and we'll see if we get any bites on that. But she did take a Nerd Cantina sticker, so that's something.
Yeah, I've got low hope with the talk to my publicist. That's a very polite way of saying nope.
You know, they did snub me on the Q&A. You know, I had my hand up every time they were asking a question. I was literally front center. I got to I was going to go home, and I seen the Q&A was coming up in 45 minutes. So I was like, I'll hang out for another hour, you know, just so I can see these guys, because all our anime fans, when I asked who I should talk to, everybody said this Steve Bloom. So I went to his Q&A, and I got front center, you know, I was the first one in the room. So I'm just sitting there on my phone waiting, doing some shit. And then when they came in to start doing the questions, you know, again, large tattooed man, can't miss me. I'm front row. I got my hand up with a pen, my notepad, like my press badge. Like I'm looking very, 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 you know, reporterish here, Jimmy Olsen up in this motherfucker. And no, man, they were going like to the back row, like this dude deep here. Like, I don't know if because I wasn't in costume or like, but I got snubbed. I got snubbed.
Well, they knew you were an outsider. You were projecting confidence and
This
judging
is
by the
true. This is true. Maybe if I
judging
turned
by
my
the people
chair
you said
around.
were asking questions. Yeah, just kept your head down, like raised your hand slightly above your shoulder, no eye contact, and then maybe that'll be like, oh, that's our people right there. We're gonna give him up.
They were very nice to all their fans though, because there was a few fans that you could tell, man, were just really nervous. And before they even started, some fan walked up and gave them 2 Starbucks gift cards, just smacked them on the table, and then stood there in an awkward silence for like 15-20 seconds. And I just kind of like wanted to walk up and put my arm around this dude and walk him back down to his chair, because it was so like that's how the whole Q&A started. They sat down, they apologized for being a little late. Their planes just landed, and this dude in a Resident Evil like costume, the police, the umbrella costume, walked right up, smacked 2 Starbucks gift cards on the table right in front of him, was like, thank you for being, so great, and then just kind of like stood there with his hands in his pockets, and like everybody was just like, oh, okay, and nobody knew where to go from there. It was very awkward. And like, those were the people they gravitated towards, is the fans that, and rightly so, they're the ones that give them the ratings, that keep them employed. It's not guys like me. So rightly so, but I was a little salty, not gonna lie. Yeah. I like my attention.
Well, I think that wraps up a kind of a slow week, but
yeah, I mean, with the holiday, we kind of slacked last week. We had our issues. You had to bow out in the middle of the desert and mid show.
We had Ron and his Tweety birds in the background. If anybody listened to that as the first one, it was pure amateur hour. It was good times. It was a good conversation.
It was either show or that show. We decided with that show.
Yeah.
Stranger Things came out this week. Did you get a chance to binge on Stranger Things at all?
I got a chance to see that it came out. I have never seen a single episode of Stranger
Jesus.
Things.
Oh Jesus! Like I mean, we run this site and podcast. Like we have to do our due diligence, and it is, with Stranger Things that's like, I want to say even I'm a little older than the kids are in that generation. Like that is your generation. They are like exactly your age at the time of when the show takes place. I'm pretty sure.
There's no shortage of shows and things that I'm regularly told that like you have to see. It's just a matter of which ones do I really have to see and get through. Stranger Things is one that I want to see. It hasn't made it to its have to see level yet, and not to mention, I still don't know what it's about. Is it scary? For some reason, it's been convinced to my wife that it's a scary show, which means she doesn't want to watch it.
It's horror sci-fi, but it's not like, it's not throw your popcorn in your air, leave finger marks on your arm, kind of scary. it's just sci-fi horror. It's got a scary element to it. I will give you credit though for finishing Handmaids. Like
I did. I got caught up on Handmaids.
I'll give it up to you for catching up in there, because really you're the only other male now I have to discuss this show with, and the females focus on the sickening drama that takes place in that show. I'm all about the dystopian aspect of that show, and that's where I think the dudes gravitate.
I like to see the collapse of society.
Like I'm very into the dystopian. Like, how the hell did America fall? How the hell did it get to this position?
But I'm frustrated that I crushed through, 2 seasons and then got caught up to the current, and I still don't know any of that.
Yeah, I mean, they drop breadcrumbs though. That's the thing, is they drop breadcrumbs enough to keep me going on. Like I think they're gonna let the cat out of the bag eventually.
Yeah, well, we'll see. There's only a couple episodes left of this season.
Yeah,
so maybe at the end of the season we'll go full full nerd at the end of an episode for
we'll
for
have
those.
we'll have to do a Handmaid's recap in a couple weeks because I have my thoughts on this on that show.
Yeah. So.
Well, now you got a new show you can binge because now Handmaid's is only open or only releases on every Wednesday, so you can only pound out one a week now. So when you and Natalie are on the couch looking for that show to watch, Stranger Things, boom, pound it out.
It's true. We didn't know what to watch yesterday, so I'll have to figure something out. Maybe it'll be Stranger Things. I don't think it'll be Stranger Things though, because Natalie's not into that stuff. So I gotta.
But it is a very nostalgic show. So just to see an old Doritos bag makes you like, oh, they do a really good job because there's a couple times where they go to like grocery stores and stuff, and they just put like the most random old boxes on the shelf, and like there's a whole scene going on, but all you could focus on is the old detergent label that's behind the lady talking. You're like, oh shit, I remember that powder box. Like, oh hell no. You get really kind of into the nostalgia. It is really well done. The child actors are really good. Winona Ryder's pretty good in it. Like and there's only I think 8 episodes a season, so it's not like that long. You know what I mean?
I'll get to it.
It's definitely worth the viewing. It lives up to the hype. It does.
It's on my list. All right, let's end this here, and want to close out by just saying thanks again for the audience for sticking with us this long. Episode 22. This is still a lot of fun for us here, and we ask you for your support, and support means if you can. Like and subscribe to what we're doing. If this is the first time you've caught us or you've listened maybe to a few episodes but you yet to hit that subscribe button, please do so. It goes a long way towards letting us know how big our audience is and getting our future episodes out to you as they come out.
And join our community at thenerdcantina.com/community. We have a lot of discussions in there, a lot of theme days and stuff like that. And we want to bring content that our audience cares about, so part of the motivation for me going to the Anime Midwest convention was the fact that there are some anime discussions in that group, and we do have some anime fans, and people I said, okay, well, I'm going to get a press pass to this convention. What should I look out for? Our fans gave us a lot of tips on who I should talk to and what I should keep an eye out for. So if you enjoy the show and its current structure and you want to hear us discuss some of the topics that you enjoy, it's a great place to put up those topics and start the conversation, and we can carry it on the podcast. So join that community.
All right. Well, with that said, thanks again.
See you guys.
Real quick, we just wanted to mention one of our favorite new apps, which is Podcoin. So assuming that because you're listening to our podcast today, that you happen to be a podcasting nerd. And if you are, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't want to get paid for your time.
I'm a big fan of getting paid to do stuff that I do in my daily routine anyways. I sign up for all the rewards programs possible. And with Podcoin, you actually get paid to listen to podcasts. So every minute that goes by that you're listening to your podcast, you are throwing away potential money.
So go ahead, download Podcoin app on either through iTunes or through the Google Play Store. And when you sign up with the promo code Nerd Cantina.
One word. That'll get you 300 free coins towards your account and get you on your way to earning that first reward from either Amazon gift card, Target gift cards, all kinds of things. You could also donate your coins to your favorite charity that they offer. If you're going to be listening to podcasts anyways, you might as well get some free stuff for doing it. So download the Podcoin app, put in the code the Nerd Cantina, get your free coins, and start earning money while you listen to our show.